Welcome to the Misophonia podcast. This is season 3, episode 21. My name's Adil Ahmad, and I have Misophonia. This week, I'm talking to Jill, a former Miss America finalist and a host of the real estate radio show Find Your Way Home with Jill. Jill reached out a while back wanting to be on the podcast and told me about an article she had written in a local newspaper in Michigan about her misophonia. I thought this was a wonderful way of getting the word out. Local newspapers are often looking for interesting articles on stories that affect their residents, and as we all know, misophonia hits people everywhere. We talk about that. We talk about growing up with miso in the 60s and 70s, raising kids, and her message to young misophones today. Like many of our guests, she spent a lot of time early in life living with misophonia before it had any awareness. If you've booked a slot to do an interview in March, it's just around the corner, and I'm super excited to start recording season 4. Lots of people are writing in now, wanting to be interviewed, and unfortunately we'll just have to wait until a little later in the year, since we're all booked now. Stay tuned for more info on that. I'm guessing that'll be early in the fall. It's very exciting to see so many people wanting to share their stories. And hey, if you're liking the shows, please do hit the stars and or leave a review, especially in Apple Podcasts, to help people find the show in their recommendations. You can always reach out by sending a message through the website, misophoniapodcast.com, or email hello@misophoniapodcast.com, or hit me up on Instagram or Facebook at Misophonia Podcast. All right, now here's my conversation with Jill. Jill, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here. Thanks for reaching out and contacting me.
Well, you're very welcome, Adil. It's a pleasure to be here.
So yeah, I don't know how many episodes you've heard, but my usual first kind of question is kind of roughly around kind of where are you located in the world?
Well, it's funny you would mention that. I just relocated to Maryland, just outside of D.C.
Okay.
Have been a Michigander my whole entire life, and I'll actually like to think of that as our second house in Traverse City, Michigan. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Months, so very, very brief.
Just curious, what made you do that move?
Our wonderful son, who works for the Pentagon in D.C., has invited. He just bought a beautiful new home, and he said, "Hey, Mom and Dad, why don't you come and hang out with me for a little while? It'll work out good for everybody." And so we said, "Okay, we can do that." So we're enjoying. It's a big change, the Midwestern life to this busy DC area, but it's working out.
Yeah. I was curious if misophonia makes people move around. How you're saying it's a lot busier over there? Are you noticing because you are a misophonia sufferer? Are you noticing any changes in? Are you getting more triggered, less triggered?
Well, that's interesting you say that, because I'm not sure where this would fit in the interview here, but my misophonia is limited to in my household around my loved ones, sadly to say. I guess, I mean, I'd heard this from people before, that I may consider myself somewhat lucky to have not had any problems whatsoever in school or in general public or in anything like that. But what I do have is definitely fast and furious when it comes to the people, my close loved ones in the household here. Especially as we're going into the winter months, at least it's winter here. And we're closed in more, and the holidays are approaching. It has become definitely more, let's say, stronger. But
Right.
No, in about I don't suffer in that way, and I do feel so badly for, just since I found out about this, the millions of people that can't function in society.
Right, but yeah, it's not. It's definitely not uncommon that people didn't notice it in school. And it was really like, I mean, even me, for example, I've said this on the show where I was able to get out of school, even university, without really being triggered too much. But it was really in the home that was kind of the biggest problem. Since then, it's
Yes.
blossomed into, other places, restaurants and whatnot. But definitely it was started and is kind of has been mostly centered around the home. Interesting that you decided to, um, jump in and just kind of move in with your with your son, kind of
Yeah.
growing that family base. But that's the kind of like I guess the dichotomy that we all face, the dilemma that we always face. It's like we have our loved ones that we
Yeah.
want to be with, but they do end up
Yeah.
being that trigger.
You hit the nail on the head. So I basically went from, well, I'll get into that, but I'm a mom and I have raised three, we rather, make sure I put my husband in there. We raised three wonderful sons. Um, and so we've been empty nesters now for how many years? So it had been just dealing with this misophonia with my husband under the roof. And so now it is with my oldest son and my husband. So yeah, it's kind of a brave step there on my part to
Hmm.
be kind of adding another one in there. But you overcome it by the love you have for your loved ones and
Right.
trying to manage it on different levels. Um, and it's in many ways, I know most people will say it's one day at a time, you know.
Right. Yeah. No, that's yeah. A lot of us think one day at a time, or any kind of period that might be triggering us, like a dinner or something like that. Like it'll be over with. People have to stop eating a meal at some point. So
Right.
there's things
Oh,
end, and then you can get on to fun stuff. I'm curious now, going back to, so you came from Michigan, and when you first reached out to me, you sent me a link to, I guess, an article you written in a, was it in a local newspaper out in Michigan?
yeah, yeah. I did that because I mean, I really don't know how this works. I wanted you to know that I truly am. I mean, why would someone do this that wasn't an actual sufferer? But I wrote an article, yes, that was published or originated in the Traverse City Record Eagle, and then I think it went into some of their, I guess for a better word, satellite places in northern
Hmm.
Michigan. I did this mostly just for myself and my family to put everything down on paper, that my feelings and how it began and how I found out about misophonia and how healing it was to find out it is, as you people say all the time, a thing, that it is a thing and now has a name in the medical community. So I mean, do you want me to talk about that for a moment and
Yeah,
how I
yeah,
found?
please. Yeah.
I was at work. I want to say it's only been, now I should take from the beginning. I grew up, and like most people that suffer from this, I want to say around age 10 or 11, around the dinner table with my parents. My four siblings were all baby boomers and they were out of the house by the time I came along. So I remember realizing that these sounds coming from my mom while eating were just, for lack of a better word, horrific
Hmm.
to me. And you can't, at 10 or 11, you're going through changes already. So that being thrown in is just, sometimes it was just unbearable. Now, the odd thing, I mean, in my mind, it's odd, it may not be odd, is that it didn't affect me with my father. My father, it did not, very close to my father, and normal relationship with my mother, I would say. It was, for a preteen, pretty much average. I love my mom, love my dad, but it did bother me with my dad. But anyway, so at the dinner table, then it went into other sounds my mom would make while just speaking, talking sounds. And she had dentures most of her life, so that didn't help any. Um, and just living with this, then of course, down the road, getting out of the house and getting married, making your way in the world. I moved to South Florida and I was a runner-up in the Miss Florida pageant and did a lot of modeling and things where, I just was coming into my own, I guess, as a young person. Met my husband, and things were just really great. And then at some point, um, this, I call it a demon, took over, and now it is hitting me with my husband in the sense of talking, eating, and I would say some breathing sounds in sleep, breathing sounds.
Right.
So I got a pair of earplugs for the sleeping part. And now all this time with my mom and my husband, no one knows. Okay, that may be a little bit different too. That I never shared this
No,
pain
that's
or
not
what.
uncommon at all.
It's
That's
not
very
okay.
common. Yeah.
I mean, I've been, reading, and when I do some research about a lot of people lash out and say, stop doing that. I never did. It wasn't because I was too nice. I just thought that I
We
truly
bottle it up. Yeah.
a monster. I mean, how in the world could this be? Who does this? Who thinks this way? That was for decades in my, I
Yeah.
never said to my mom, why are you chewing that way? Why are you talking that way? Never, never, never. Just all inside, inside. So then I,
Did you ever give her, do you remember giving her, the glare that we all talk about, or any kind of,
absolutely,
did she ever
absolutely.
notice?
It's interesting you say that because our relationship probably was strained more than I realized. And you just kind of enlightened me in a way I never thought about before, that it probably was because of that. Probably because I didn't give her a lot of, she got hugs and kisses from me, and we went through the motions that way, but I probably didn't get close to her in a
Yeah.
physical, emotional sense that I could have because of this misophonia. You're probably
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
No, I share that, and a lot of listeners do. There's kind of that see-through barrier, kind of a glass barrier that misophonia, I think, puts between people.
And I'll tell you, too, this is important, and it's bringing back memories. As my mom was on the last, say, year of her life, where she suffered from heart conditions, and then she broke her hip, and she was a strong, strong warrior her whole life, and she didn't get sick till age 90. But I was one of her primary caregivers in her last year, last months, and definitely last days, and I was the one with her when she passed. I think that I like to think it's uh, God's grace or something, that as she was, in the bed, and what, there's a lot of sounds coming out of someone when they're so sick, and they're dying basically. I, I was able to block that out. Isn't that amazing? At that,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the very end, because I needed to be there to hold her hand, to feed her, to wash her dentures and brush her hair. And at those time, that was the only time in my whole life that I remember being able to suck it up. Huh.
Yeah, that's interesting because but yeah, similar with me. I was there kind of in the last few months of my dad was in the hospital with a lot of stuff going on, and I just don't remember being triggered. It was just like the kind of a much lower priority to worry about that.
Yeah, it's well, we know, we don't choose we can't choose how we react. It just does. So maybe there's some kind of, just sort of grace that comes into the system that makes you able to do what you have to do at the time. But
Yeah,
anyway, so yeah, I don't think I was. I know she loved me dearly, but I think I was probably one of the children that was, uh, we butted heads, and I think it was mostly due to this. So, but
gotcha.
yeah.
Well, so
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't mean to cut you
no,
off.
no, this is a great tangent. I think we were originally talking about that. the article you wrote
hadn't
and how
come.
that was kind of
Yeah, right,
inspired
right.
by. Yeah, you want to talk about continue with that?
Yeah. So how I found out. So this is it. Going into the I talked about my mom and then my husband, and then it came, okay, so I started having children, and then one by one, first son, second son, third son born, the sounds and the noises of talking and mouth sounds and eating invaded the relationship with each of my children as well. Again, nobody
From the
knows
get
about it.
go, or when they
No,
hit a certain
no,
age.
it's I can't say it's an exact age, but it was not nothing as an infant or a toddler. Those were wonderful, wonderful
Yeah.
those times. I want to say probably around the years they start getting their grown up teeth and they start to, just that's the only thing my brain can process is that's probably around the time, maybe 8, 9, 7, 8,
Mm-hmm.
9. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not, maybe even a little sooner. I didn't write it down, but but the first son, then the second son, and then had a span. They were back to back born. Then I had a span of 7 years before my baby was born, our baby Noah, and it wasn't happening with him. Even as he grew a little older, it wasn't happening. And then it was almost like a light switch. One day, it happened. I don't remember where or when, but it was like, just not cuss, but damn, it was like, I thought, but this thing doesn't, you can't escape it. You know what I'm saying? And so now
Yeah.
it's and my three sons. So I'm a mom, and I like to raise my children the way I was raised, with dinner on the table by 6 o'clock and well balanced, and I didn't want any of that to get in the way. So I think I went into some coping mechanisms with, um, maybe play the radio a little louder while you're eating, or run the dryer, run the washing machine, run the dishwasher. Nobody picked up on it. They didn't know, of course. Why would they think? Then a little bit after they started leaving the house one by one, I was on a break at work, and I read an article on my computer on my break. It just popped. I don't know how, I didn't search it out, but it just kind of popped up in the Google articles, and it was a word misophonia was on there, which didn't attract me. But when I saw the words hatred of sound,
Mm-hmm.
I backtracked, and it mentioned in my article the words anxiety, swallow, panic, popcorn, chewing, munching. They're just words, but they hit me. It hit my heart, and I read it, went back. Actually, it was an article about Kelly Ripa, who
Oh yeah.
is a sufferer, and how she kind of was making light of it on her show, where she pulled out the New York Times article and said, I think I have this. But the whole article then showed her kind of snapping at her children at home. And I once I got the name misophonia, of course, then, I Googled the heck out of it. And I did say in my article, like, I felt like I had won the lottery. And that's the only thing I can compare it to, being penniless and all of a sudden winning $5 million. That
Yeah,
literally
that's
was
funny.
true.
Yeah, that's what happens is like you find out about it, and then people have told me they're up all night, they don't sleep, they're just kind of go down that rabbit hole of like, oh my gosh, this explains
Yeah,
so
in a
many
good way, right?
things. Yeah, 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 yeah. Right.
In a good way. I mean, well, I already have it. I already had it. Now it's all
How do you
forward. It's all
cope? Yeah, exactly. It's
like,
all
yay!
like,
Oh my God! Oh my God! I can't wait to go home. I think I went home early, and I was like, John, and my husband's name is John. I have some good news, and I have some bad news. Yeah, and he's like, well, the bad news is that everything you have basically done, said and done and eaten in the last 3 decades has driven me crazy. You know what I mean? I don't remember my wording verbatim,
yeah,
but
yeah.
as well as the kids and my mom and sometimes my dad. And the good news, and so his face is like, what? And the good news that is, I feel like $1 million. I'm so excited. I'm so happy to know that. And that was just the beginning of, we know, we all research it at that point, and read and read and read and read. And it has a name. It's relatively, the disorder is not new, but the name is relatively new. And uh, I am so happy that I can get through the rest of my life now because of this information. And I feel like it's hard to find the groups, but I would like to the rest of my life just educate, and
Hmm.
anybody who wants to talk to me, I'm an open book.
Yeah, there's definitely yeah, and that's great, and I think a lot of people would benefit from that. They're going to benefit from your story here, but yeah, I mean, there's Facebook groups, and yeah, I'll if anyone's listening and wants to reach out, I can we can all get connected. That's great. And what was your family's reaction when you told them?
Oh, yeah,
Because you're on your we find out about it, we do all this research, we get into this kind of like a I call it a misophonia honeymoon phase where we feel like, yeah, we're gonna tackle this, but then we don't get quite the same reaction from other people because
we
it's just not a
don't.
big deal for them.
No, no. And, I wrote this article. I mean, I had a lot of people say, I mean, I might have put it out on Facebook or something just to help out people. You're so brave for doing this. Because, you know, you feel like when you stick your neck out like that, you know that people are saying, yes, you're brave, but they also are looking at you like, what the heck, you know? Um,
Right.
I these people say, not me. The people say, I've never heard of that. Are you sure that's a thing? Um, so no, I made up a name and put this out just for attention. You know what I'm saying? It's no, that if you guys could only, and maybe your really close family and friends want to talk to you at length about it, but I find that a lot of people are uncomfortable with it a little bit. Not my family, but maybe friends or distant friends that they don't talk, they don't bring it up. They just say, maybe thinking that it would upset me, but it doesn't. It's the same as a death of somebody. You're supposed to talk to them about it and not bury it and not put it under the rug and never bring it up. However, back to your question, my my three sons and my husband, extremely supportive. Um, let's talk about it. At the beginning, I remember they wanted to hear everything I had to say. Uh, Pretty surprised because I did hide it quite well, as I mentioned before. So they were, and I'm not happy about that because it made me feel like I did sacrifice not lashing out, not, um, I shouldn't say I sacrificed, but by carrying the pain and burden all those years alone, I felt like I was glad to give them a little bit more of a normal childhood without the crazy mom that can't be in the room with them eating. You know what I mean?
Right. So you
So
wouldn't even eat with them? Like you try to keep things as normal as possible, not kind of like shine, not put a spotlight on it, but just, sneak out of the room around meal times and
no,
whatnot.
no, we had the traditional sit
Okay.
down
Yeah.
dinners with the the only thing is that I would always sit at the end of the table, and I would put it's not funny, but even to this day, they are all seated at the other end. Okay? I wonder if they ever, I don't think anybody ever said, why are we so far from you? And no one really said it, but I was just going to say, I'm at the head, dad's at the head, and you guys are sitting by dad.
It's like you're at
I,
a parole meeting and
yeah. It's like, how's
that's
the
what I'm
food down
imagining.
there?
Yeah.
So we just, on a lighter, fun note too, we just went out and purchased dining room set, and it had to be, and now we can talk about it, right? My son, who's 31 now, who we're with, kind of living with for a little while, we're went out and purchased a dining room set, and I was like, no, we have to get this model, because it has the two bigger leaves that extend it
Right.
further. So now, my gosh, I'm like out in another, practically another room at the end of the table, but they understand, they get it. So
Yeah.
it's awful. You know what I mean?
No, that's great. And are you guys able to like, now that it's out, are you able to, you know, joke about it amongst yourselves? Because humor is a great coping mechanism if all else fails, is to kind of, a lot of people find is to, if you can kind of joke about it, it kind of like lowers that, um, the,
Yeah.
the amount of pain that you feel.
Absolutely. And oh gosh, I'm I think the one that's always a little off color, the one that's, you can probably tell by the interview, I'm the one cracking jokes, and I'm the one,
Mm.
and maybe it's a guy thing. They're a little more serious. My military son, my middle son works for SpaceX, which is, launches
Oh,
the rocket.
nice. Yeah, yeah.
He's serious. He's always, and then our third son is our kind of our sports management jock. But you know how guys are. I mean, they're a little more serious. So I'm the one that makes up the fun and the joke about what I have, and they do or don't react. You know what I mean? But I think if sometimes I think if I had daughters, or more female presence around, that there would be a little more laughter. But no, you're right. You have this thing. You have to. One Christmas a few years back, when it was already out there, we were sitting around watching Christmas movies and TV shows, and having, it was a beautiful, the tree, and
Hmm.
everybody went. This is where I have a hard time to, as many listeners will know, when the snack time comes.
Oh, yeah.
So that involves peanuts and nuts and popcorn in that close room. So I got up and said, guys, I can't do this. I'll be right back. And then I came back in with my big old headphones. And then it really was fine. Well, I had a couple glasses of wine. That was even a lot more helpful there with my headphones. And we continued on, and it really kind of buffered it out. So I can't do that all the time, but I think, like I said, these coping mechanisms of earplugs or headphones, or some background noise, does help out a lot. Go ahead and talk, Adil. I'm just rambling. I think
Yeah,
I.
no, no. I was gonna. Those are the classic ones. I was gonna ask you about kind of your dated coping mechanisms. So, okay, you got the 50-foot dining table. That's one. You got the headphones. So you're watching a movie, and you just have the headphones on as like a noise blocker, or do you have
Yeah,
music going on
I've only done
too?
this a
Or
couple. Yeah,
yeah,
you mean, I don't know how to. I don't have the expensive pair that, whatever, what is that called, where you can.
the noise canceling ones like the Bose
Yeah,
or
noise can't.
whatever.
I don't have. I just have the kind you put
Yeah,
on an airplane where you listen to
that's
the
all you
movie.
really need. Yeah. So
You can
were you
still hear.
listening?
No,
Right,
go
were you
ahead. I'm
listening to the
sorry.
movie? Were you listening to the movie with those headphones on, or were you just kind of reducing all noise
No, I
while you're
was able.
watching the Christmas movies?
Yeah, I'm able. I was able to. I do that because if they let me turn the sound up
Oh, gotcha.
loud
Yeah,
enough, I can hear them.
yeah.
And I don't do this all the time. I don't do this all the time. This is just a couple of times, but it's when it's those special times where they know you have it, and you don't want to be out of the room. It's family time. Everyone
Well,
flies in for Christmas or
it's
something.
exactly. It's you got the tree, like you said. Yeah, it's like a kind of a beautiful moment. You don't want to just It's there's that dilemma. It's like you got to deal with some misophonia, but then it's like a magic moment. So um, yeah,
Yeah, and if you don't mind
pour a
me
couple glasses of
looking,
wine and and some
hey, I tell
headphones
you,
and yeah.
wine is. I don't want to go down that road, but it's, a glass of wine takes the edge off. A little relaxing at night, not driving or anything like that. Um, so yeah, those are all coping mechanisms. Thinking about it now, I just had that thought back when I was a kid. My dad would yell at us if we chewed celery when we were all
Hmm.
growing up, and so I think he had a touch of this as well. I think it's hereditary. I'm not sure. Do you know if this is hereditary or?
Jury's out on that, yeah. But it's funny you're not the only one who's mentioned that, or even had put that connection just on the podcast. It's like, oh, you know what? One of my parents, my mom or dad, they used to react to stuff like that. Classic mechanisms. Yeah, wine is just one more, um, 1 second on that. Yeah, wine seems to, yeah, a good amount, like a reasonable amount. It seems to calm things down, but you don't want to have like too much of whiskey or something, which turns me
Oh
into at
no,
least like an
not
extra
promoting
ranty
hard
mode.
liquor.
Yeah,
No.
they all have their different effects, I've found. So, anyways, I just want to put that out
Good.
there in case anyone was considering this for like a, an
Right.
occasional coping mechanism.
Yeah.
But
Don't yeah, that's just my personal thing, and not advocating that at all. No, be
right.
better off with your headphones, or those little earplugs that they sell in the store are foam,
Oh yeah.
and they're beige, and then you don't see those, especially if your hair is down at all.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've some earplugs have done well, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe I have like super sensitive hearing, but it's just like it can I don't know, I guess I can still get triggered. It's just like a lower volume. I feel like me personally,
True.
I need some sound over it to mask it. But I guess
True.
everyone's got their own. But that is definitely a common mechanism.
It takes off a layer. It just takes off
Yeah.
the edge. I think if you would call it that, it just takes off the edge. Like the other day, we were driving in the car, and my son and husband said to me, "Well, let's get something to eat." Well, now with the pandemic, we're picking up food. Okay,
Yeah.
mostly. So I said, "Well, I won't be able to get through sitting in the car."
Oh, eating in the car. Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're all right next to each other. However, if we can leave the car on
And
running,
blast some music. Yeah.
and yeah, you said it, Adil, and put the radio on, I think I'll be fine. And I was. Because remember, we're eating at the same time, so we're making our own sounds in our head that are automatically kind of blocking out other people's sounds by our own eating and chewing.
Do you use mimicry as a? I don't know if you've heard of that as a coping mechanism, but some people have mentioned
No.
that where if they hear a trigger, they try to copy that trigger at the same time, and it seems to help some people. But
No, I
just
don't. I
reminding
read that.
me. Yeah.
I did read that. No, the only mimicry would just be it would be good that if I was eating, if you're eating, kind of thing.
Right. Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of a. It doesn't work for me, but it seems to work for some people. Um,
Do you have? I know you're doing the interview, but do you have? You had mentioned earlier before we started recording, I was clicking a pen. Um, a lot of people are triggered by other sounds. Mine just seem to be oral, but do you have that? Are you suffer in that way?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely have the chewing and the oral, but yeah, there's definitely other sounds, especially I guess if they're going to be repetitive in nature, like a pen clicking could be if somebody's going to keep doing that, that could definitely that could definitely be a trigger too. So it's not
Right.
yeah for me it's not just ear, mouth and nose, but the mouth, nose, and throat. But that's definitely where it started, and that's kind of number one, number one grouping for me.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
but definitely not
So
the only
that's
one. And like a lot of people, they've kind of grown over time. It seems like for you, it's been fairly static in terms of it's that the mouth sound area.
yeah. And then this is also amazing. Other than yeah, it never went into sounds, pens, or other people. No other people in the public have I ever had a problem with. I mean, I could sit in a movie theater next to 5 million people chewing popcorn. Doesn't bother me. And I don't understand. I guess I'm reading why the brain is wired, why it is with your loved ones. I'm not 100% sure why. My sister, very close with my sister, um, and she'll be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm eating on the phone. I shouldn't because I know you have that thing." And it doesn't affect me at all with my sibling.
Really?
So that's why. I mean, I have it bad, with my family. So I kind of like to have some more answers as to why I'm able to be totally 1000% normal around public, my sister, my siblings, and even my father,
Yeah.
who is the one that hated people chewing celery when we were, younger. But why does it pick on why my mother, why my husband, why my sons, people that you
Yeah,
would
that's
give your
odd that it hit just kind of one person from the previous generation, and then just everybody from your kind of this current generation. That's really interesting. Hmm.
so if,
Well, what about how about like do you have visual triggers as well? I know a lot of people, especially with people whose triggers are around the mouth sounds, they
yeah,
have a hard time watching people eat or even bringing their hands near their faces or just kind of anything in that category. Do you
yeah,
notice that as well?
I actually do and again, it's limited to my husband and my sons. Um, it it's not as bad as the actual sounds, of course, but I've started noticing that the last couple of years. You're almost anticipating what it
Yeah,
could be like as soon as they go to do something. You're freezing up. You're tense. Your body and your brain is tensed up in that split second. And I think that's what you're referring to, right? When, um,
exactly. Yeah.
like,
It's almost
like
like a
say if somebody's,
Pavlovian connection that it's like you've probably been
uh-huh.
triggered a lot by the sounds, and then what's a constant thing around that sound is like the visual, and then suddenly the visual is now triggering you. Is kind of my theory, and probably maybe a working theory.
No, I think you're right. I haven't really even thought about it like that, but it's true. If my eyes were closed, I probably wouldn't have the trigger hit me until I actually heard the sounds. But you're right, it's just prior to, you know what I'm saying? So it
Hmm.
is on what you're looking at as well. It's interesting that you would have brought that up because I never considered myself getting triggered by visual, but I think it's all, centered around food and the
Hmm.
visual. So I guess we should throw besides your earplugs, the blinders on at dinner time. That'd
Right.
be
Yeah,
hard
I
to get
guess.
your food in there.
Well, you just have to keep your face right above the food so you can look down and see the
Yeah.
plate. And we could
This
come
is
out
the
with
humor
an
we're talking
entire
about.
line. Yeah, we can come out with an entire line of Misophonia products, a fashion line that no one else would
Oh
understand.
my gosh.
But yeah, maybe. So what was? So you told your family, but obviously the article that you wrote probably reached a lot of people. I'm curious. Like, did you start to get feedback from the community?
I did. I received a few letters. Mostly it was online, responses from people that were saying some of it was right, publicly, maybe on Facebook, but a lot of private emails and messages on Messenger, people saying, really thank you for writing this. Had no idea. Um, my son has it, my nephew, my sister's best friend, whatever the case may be, and they passed it along to them. And some of them, reached back out to me and said they were getting help, or it was just a huge relief to know this existed. So I think that that's where the gratification comes in. If I have to have this, and if I've had this, and it's invaded my life on so many levels for so many years, I'm going to try my darndest to make someone else feel as good as I did when I read the initial article.
Hmm.
Because and I feel in some way, if anybody's listening, I feel a little helpless. I just have reached out to people, but there was so much more I'd like to do. I just don't know where to apply myself.
Yeah. Well, if people are
The other thing
listening,
is,
might have some
if they're
ideas.
listening, I
Yeah.
hope they are. One other thing is the youth. I wanted to tell some of the younger people, maybe young girls that are suffering with this, that I suffered with it and in tremendous ways, but I was able to still what I consider have a quote unquote normal life, um, went into the Miss America pageant, scholarship pageant arena, and do something, had what I consider a normal life and exceed. I married a wonderful man, had been able to give birth and raise three spectacular, loving, humble, um, successful sons. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't mean, because so many people I've heard maybe thinking of suicide or just thinking that my life is going to be in shambles because of this, but it doesn't. And I want people to know that um, I didn't have therapy, but now there's therapy for this. So if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that, and that's something that does come up. We definitely have some conversations about some really uh, dark moments that some people have, and we have a lot of high schoolers that come on and are really worried about what's going to happen. But have equal number of people like yourself come on and say that it does get better, and people are able to do amazing things, and like you raise amazing an amazing next generation. And that's really a testament to kind of, I think, how strong we are, and that's great. And we
Yeah.
have, I think we have more control over our environment. Like you know you got to specify your dining table as a kid. Yeah, there's a lot of, we just have to kind
Right.
of live with whatever our surroundings give us, but you have a little bit more control.
Yeah. Yeah. And another point to make too, Adil, is that I I always tell them it's not you, it's me. Remember that. Well, they know that it's not them, but I think it's important to re, to you need the support and the love and the understanding, but it's also important to remind them, please don't change. I shouldn't say that because you do want people to help you out there, but don't don't be on eggshells. That's the last thing I want, because I let me do the coping. This is my thing. Let me figure this out. You guys try to be courteous and all that at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Like, you sit there and eat your nuts in front of the TV and I'll figure this out, because I want them to know they didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean, and that's I've heard that as well. It just, if they're kind of, if it seems like they're kind of like going out of their way to get eggshells, that kind of adds to the stress that we feel, and that's
Yes.
like the number one catalyst I feel. And so either basically make a joke about it or do it without me knowing, like try to, you know try to whatever you're doing to kind of like hide the sound or whatever. I think we'd all like to
Yep.
either not know or make a joke about it and lighten the mood. That this is kind of the, I think, the best things people can do.
Absolutely. You don't want to, easier said than done, but you're trying not to make them also
Right.
uncomfortable, because like this coming Christmas, we have one of our sons flying in, and no, that I don't want them to feel uncomfortable in any way. And they
Yep.
know, and that's like, this is the beauty part. They know now, so mom can go get her headphones, or mom can, uh, you know, that's why she's sitting at the far end of the table, and maybe the radio's playing. It's good that it's out there, I guess, is
Yeah.
my.
No, you're right, and it's not just to hide things to kind of reduce stress on us. We're despite what we feel about sounds, we are relatively reasonable people. We don't want other people to be uncomfortable just because of our issue. Um,
Exactly.
but is there anything you want to kind of leave people with as we start to wrap up here?
Well, just in summary, there is a light, the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep.
If you're a young person listening to this, you're a young person suffering with this, um, hang in there, because you can leave a full, beautiful life. You can do whatever you want to do. Does not, what is the word I want to say, identify you. This is not what makes you you. It's just something that Some people have, diabetes. Some people have, everybody's got something, and this is a cross that we have to bear. But there's a lot of things to look forward to in life, a lot of great milestones, and just hang in there and get some therapy and talk to people. Um, that's the main thing. Communication.
Yeah, knowing that there are other people around that you can, you know, contact at a kind of a drop of a hat is it just a great thing to have in your back pocket because you can just think about other people. If I'm going through a trigger and I'm think about, oh, I just talked to Jill or somebody else about something similar, that just kind of puts me at ease. And I think that's a big part of, yeah, being able to communicate with people is to help them and help yourself.
Yeah, right.
So
Because now
it's yeah. Sorry, go on.
no, I was just going to say, this has been so therapeutic for me because, as you said, I don't talk to people. I'm the one that is trying to educate, and I live with this. But even talking to you, Adil, I feel so much better. You sharing some of the things you've shared with me on your interview.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, that's a big part of doing this. Honestly, this was actually inspired by the last in-person convention that I went to, where Menino spoke and a bunch of other people spoke. It was just like these kinds of like hallway conversations or conversations at the bar were, I feel like, the most valuable parts of it. So the more of this we can do, the better. And thank you for reaching out, kind of out of nowhere and coming on the show.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. I think I saw you put little snippets on, I think it's on my news feed on Facebook because I am in
Mhm.
some of the Misophonia groups, but I don't know how
Yep.
I got your thing. I'm not sure how that.
Yeah, I'm in those groups too. So I usually every Wednesday when a new episode comes out, I just kind of like spam all the groups with little
Right.
video snippets. And yeah, I'm glad that you found it.
And thank you for doing everything you do because this helps so many people. It really does.
Thank you, Jill, and thanks again for that article. I hope that inspires others to write. The link is in the show notes. If you're enjoying the shows, don't forget to leave that little review. Give us a follow on Instagram or Facebook at Misophonia Podcast or Twitter at Misophonia Show. Music is by Moby, and until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.